Well, I'm really impressed. This is a great turnout tonight. I didn't know what kind of response we would get from the notice. I'm Tom Rasmussen. I'm a member of the Seattle City Council. I'm your neighbor. I just live about a mile to the west of here, and I chair the Transportation Committee of the Seattle City Council. And as the chair of the Transportation Committee, of course, one of the major things that I've been working on for the last 2 years as the chair of that committee is the Alaskan Way Viaduct replacement project. This is an extremely complex project. It covers about every mode of transportation that can possibly, you can possibly think of other than aircraft. Ships, railroad, cars, trucks, freight, water taxi, everything is impacted by this project. So we're working with our colleagues, County Councilmember Joe McDermott, who's also one of your neighbors, and the Washington State Department of Transportation, and many, many others to make this project go as smoothly and on time and within budget as is possible. So this, on the 21st of October, is going to be one of the first major closures of the Alaskan Way Viaduct project as a major project is completed, at least this first part of it. And we're going to be talking about that, and we'll be taking questions from all of you too. But what you see around the table is, or around the room, is an example of all the cooperation that's going on. We have many, many agencies who are working together to make sure that the 9-day closure goes as smoothly as possible. And what we wanted to do is to share with you all of the information about what is being planned for this 9-day closure, what we're doing to minimize problems during this period of time, and then to answer any questions that you may have. This is kind of like a smorgasbord. You can go, after our presentation, which will take about 20 minutes, go to each of the different sites and ask specific questions of the people who are represented there and the agencies who are represented there. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for being here, and now I'm going to turn it over to County Councilmember Joe McDermott.
Thank you, Tom. Like Tom, I'm a West Seattle resident, live down in the Morgan Junction, and represent West Seattle and beyond on the King County Council. And I also serve as chair of the King County Ferry District. Our point tonight is to make sure that you have all the information you possibly can for the 9-day closure so that it minimizes the impact to you, and even more importantly, think of yourself as early adopters. People who are here getting the information early, and I'm going to encourage you to take the information you gather tonight and share it with your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, the people you ride the bus with, even your enemies. Share it with everybody you can find, because we all need to get the word out to as many people as possible. Earlier this year, you heard news coverage about a major freeway closure down in the Los Angeles area. They called it Carmageddon. They were concerned that the gridlock was going to exist for the entire week that it was closed. Because of their strong planning and getting the word out and people hearing that message, Carmageddon didn't materialize. Tonight, we're here to talk about what may be termed Viaduct. Now, I can't promise you that Viaduct won't materialize. It certainly will impact us. But the key is to know that Metro Transit, Washington State Department of Transportation, the Seattle Department of Transportation, the King County Ferry District, and others have all been doing as much planning as we possibly can to minimize that effect. Those are the people who are represented at tables around the room tonight, and after the presentation from the State Department of Transportation and a few questions, again, I would really urge you to think about your current modes of transportation. Do you ride the bus on occasion? Have you thought about taking the water taxi? And actually get out and go talk to other tables. You'll find out that for the week of the closure, we have 3,000 extra bus seats going in and out of downtown during commute hours. That we have the 54 bus route running about every 15 minutes, Monday through Saturday of that week. That we have 5 more round trips of the West Seattle water taxi added. That we have new parking for the West Seattle water taxi for that week, and larger shuttles running the existing shuttle routes. So we've been engaged in as much planning as we can. Now it's our opportunity to share a lot of that information with you and ask you to in turn share it with that many more people to reach everybody we can. I'll turn it over to Matt Preedy with the Washington State Department of Transportation.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. And I appreciate council members' initiative in arranging this forum. There's nothing like having an open house, a public open house, to share information with the public and have the staff outnumber the crowd. So this is very refreshing to see that, people got the word that we're doing this here tonight, and two, people do think it's important enough to come here and hear what we have to say, and even more important yet, figure out what you all need to do to help yourselves and what we can offer you to take advantage of during the 9-day closure. We have this great, nifty little PowerPoint presentation here. Unfortunately, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, and believe it or not, the background on this screen is green. So just pretend that's green. So for some reason, it's the colors aren't working out right, and I apologize. It may be a little hard to see. I'll use my pointer to the degree that we can. Much of the really important information here, as far as graphics, it's in the handouts that are available at the tables, and that you probably have with you. So with that, let's go on ahead. So the SR 99 Viaduct Replacement Project is actually in two parts. The first part that we're talking about now is replacing the viaduct from Holgate Street up to King Street. To give you a reference point, Safeco Field is right here. CenturyLink Field, which used to be Quest Field, is right there. And that is the northern limit of our project right around King Street. The Central Waterfront Replacement Board Tunnel, that's a separate contract. A common misunderstanding is we're not tearing down the viaduct in its entirety starting October 21st, just the southern mile. Okay, the Central Waterfront part is still going to be there for another 4.5 years. Moving on, there we go. So Holgate to King. Wow, that's interesting colors, yes. All right, so this is in a folio that you have too. On the left side here, this is what the viaduct looked like before we started construction. First Avenue is here. This is Atlantic. Edgar Martinez, Royal Rome is here, and of course the double stack viaduct is running right here. When the Holgate to King project is completed by the end of 2013, instead of a stacked main line, it's going to be two bridges side by side. And we're going to have what's called a railroad track bypass bridge that goes up and over everything here. This mainline bridge gets traffic over Atlantic, which carries a lot of truck traffic back and forth to the Port of Seattle. But there's a train track that gets blocked 30 minutes of each hour all day long. And as a result, there's a lot of freight backups here. Once we get this railroad bypass bridge done, all those freight backups down here will be greatly reduced. And of course, general purpose traffic can use that too. This, go back one more. This orange area here, that is our transition area to the tunnel. Starting beginning of next year, we're going to start digging a very large hole in order to launch our board tunnel out of. That's not really why we're here to chat, but I just wanted you to be aware of it and what the timing for what you might be seeing on the tunnel contract. Moving on. This is, I believe, on an 11 by 17 handout. Is that true, or is this 8.5 by 11? I believe that you have this available at one of our tables, so you can see it in a little more detail. Once again, left side here, that's before we started construction. North is up. These were the old ramps to First Avenue. This is where we are now. So back in February, we demolished the first part of the viaduct, which was the ramps over First Avenue. Those got temporarily reconfigured, so your on-ramps now are coming on and off of Royal Rome right here. Okay, so that's the way that it works now. After the 9-day closure is done, these ramps will have been restriped to 2 lanes each way. They're currently 1 lane each way. They're wide enough for 2 lanes. These ramps get transformed to carry the main line traffic around the area where we're going to be digging the tunnel launch pit. These 2 ramps, when they get transitioned to the main line, they will go through where the viaduct stands now, and they will connect up to the new southbound bridge, which has been under construction for the last year. Many people think the structure off to the west side of the viaduct near the Coast Guard. They think that might be a ramp. It's not. That's the new southbound mainline bridge. That is large enough to carry the 3 permanent southbound lanes. It's also wide enough to temporarily carry 2 narrower northbound lanes and 2 narrower southbound lanes at the same time. So for the next 4 years, after we reopen the viaduct or the SR 99 after the 9-day closure, all northbound and southbound traffic will be on the southbound bridge. And then it will connect through a big gap that we will have created by demolishing a large portion of the structure over to these ramps, which will be restriped to 2 lanes each way, and that is how we get traffic back up onto the central waterfront viaduct main line. That is the key point of strategy that we have in place to keep SR 99 open during the rest of construction. It is 9 days of impact, but what we buy with those 9 days of impact is an open viaduct corridor for the next 4 years. So what is open, what is closed? Starting 7:30 p.m. on October 21st, that's a Friday night, we will close both directions of SR 99 between Spokane Street and the north end of the Battery Street Tunnel. That closure will remain in effect through Monday, October 31st in the southbound direction. The last exit you're going to be able to take southbound on SR 99 is at Denny Way. Northbound, the last exit you'll be able to take is at Lower Spokane Street. Northbound is a little different. Northbound will be fully closed from Spokane Street up to Royal Brome. There's an on-ramp access northbound at Royal Brome. That ramp is going to be open every weekday, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. because, one, it is north of the demolition zone. And the only reason we have to close it temporarily at nights and on weekends is we have to do some work to reconfigure it to carry 2 lanes when we reopen it at the end of the 9-day closure as the main line. There's no reason to keep it any longer than we have to, so northbound, people will be able to use the viaduct getting on at Royal Brome Way to bypass downtown. Okay. So when we first started planning the Holgate to King Street replacement in 2007, we realized that it was going to have some traffic impacts. As a result of that, we invested, along with the city and along with the county, $125 million in what we call advanced traffic mitigation projects. We have a series of driver information signs on I-5 that were constructed by the Viaduct program to help I-5 operate more effectively and reduce accidents. There's new travel time signs that you've probably seen on Fauntleroy Way, Admiral Way, 35th, that display driver information as well as travel times. Those were bought and paid for by the Viaduct program and constructed by the city. That was all leading up to construction, so that we have better driver information out there so we can keep people informed of what's ahead of them. We invested another $32 million with King County Metro to advance their rapid ride program earlier than what they had planned. King County had great plans to put in additional rapid ride service, but it was going to start later than what the Viaduct program really needed it to act as construction traffic mitigation. So we gave them enough money to start that sooner so that it would be available for us. So how do we get around during the SR 99 closure? There's several things in play. I'm going to refer to my notes because there's a lot. First off, the primary message is it's going to be 5 weekdays that are impacted. It's 2 weekends in the intervening work week. We're asking people to adjust what they do that work week. Even if it's for 1 day, it will help. Just because some people might be able to adjust all 5 days doesn't mean that your 1 day adjustment won't help. It will. So we're asking the public, if you can alter your commute time, if you can alter your commute mode, meaning carpool, take the bus, take the water taxi, take the day off, work from home. I won't be able to take the day off. I'm going to have to do a job.
Matt, you might want to be clear, you live in West Seattle too.
I live in West Seattle too. My name is Matt Preedy and I live in West Seattle too, yes. But which is why our West Seattle open house is going first. We have another one in Greenwood, but you know, home crowd first. All right, so there's many things that people can do. Like we already mentioned, the ferry district is going to run earlier in the morning, and it's going to run later in the morning commute. In order to provide additional parking for the water taxi, there's going to be spaces opened up on Harbor Avenue. There's going to be a parking restriction 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. on portions of Harbor Avenue so that those spaces are available in the morning for people to come down and park and get on the taxi. Also, half of Don Armini Park in the boat launch area will be available for water taxi parking. Between those two areas, there's going to be about 200 spots available to park for the water taxi that aren't there now. There's going to be a new bus lane striped on southbound Avalon Way. There's no parking signs out there now. Over the course of this next week, one of our transit bottlenecks that has been occurring is on, northbound Avalon Way, not southbound. Northbound Avalon Way approaching Lower Spokane Street. The parking on the right-hand side is going to be striped off as a bus-only lane during the morning peak. And so the backup that occurs there now, and I ride that bus, and it's a little frustrating that my bus isn't going any faster than everyone else. We're putting all of these things into play in advance of the 9-day closure to give transit an advantage over the general purpose vehicle to incentivize people to take the transit, because the more folks that we can get to change modes, that can change modes, it'll free up room on the roadways for those that actually can't change. And we recognize there's folks that can't change. You can't put a truck on a bus. There's certain people that carry tools around. There's a lot of people that actually have to go to work and taking the day off. That's not really an option for them, right? But for a lot of people, they can make adjustments, and that's what we're asking people to do. And the reason we're here today is we will open this up for a little bit of question and answer here as a group, but we really felt there was a need that each individual person probably has a separate question. Like I live here and I need to go here. What are my options for buses? What are my options for roadways? Those questions are best answered by all the great people that we have staffing the charts around the room. So please, be sure you stick around after I'm done here and ask exactly what you need to have answered. Moving on. One of our strategies during early construction was to make sure that we have a nice new bike route here. We have constructed our new portside path because clearly if you want to keep folks safe, you want to get bikes out of the work zone, and we've done an effort to do that. So there's a bike map available if folks want to try biking into work that haven't historically done so. I already talked about the added bus trips, 92 additional trips were added in 2010, and several more are going to be added during the 9-day closure. And I have a bus route map shown on the next slide, I think. There we go. So if you're used to using the buses that use SR99 High Bridge, we are publishing bus detour maps so you can see in advance which way your bus will go. There's nothing more disconcerting than hopping on a bus and all of a sudden it's going on a road that it doesn't normally go on. I'm like, hey, how am I going to get to work? It's not going on the road I know. So these are designed specifically to let you know which roads that bus will take, so you'll know that eventually that you will actually get to where you are trying to get to. There's a different route northbound in the morning and a different route southbound in the afternoon. One highlight here, the PM bus route is going across the Lower Spokane Street swing bridge. We have requested, the county, the city, and the state, we all requested that the Coast Guard implement a marine closure of that lower swing bridge during the PM peak, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. They have granted that. With the exception that, of course, if there's an emergency situation, then the bridge will have to be opened, okay? But for the PM peak, the openings of that lower swing bridge will be drastically reduced, which is very important for bikes and peds and the transit routes, which will use the lower bridge. We also have a wide variety of driver information signs. You can't see them on here, but they are positioned specifically in advance of key decision points, so people can be reminded, oh yeah, that's right, the viaduct's closed, I might want to turn off here and use one of my alternate routes. We have alternate route maps that we published. These are online. They are on handouts. Many people are probably used to using SR99 and going up and have been doing that for 2, 3, 10, 15 years, right? There are actual other good routes to get up into town, but you kind of have to think about where they are. From West Seattle, from White Center area, from Burien area. The ideal way to go is go up either First Avenue or 4th. If you go across the First Avenue South Bridge, you can access that via Michigan Street. If you're coming off of the West Seattle High Bridge, you can get off the First Avenue ramp, or you can get off on the 4th Avenue Loop ramp, which my wife calls the Costco ramp, which it is, right? But you can use those ramps to actually go up on First Avenue and go up on 4th, and those are good routes into downtown. There's another map here coming up out of Burien. I won't go into detail here. I know it's hard to see on the screen, and you do have maps to show those. One thing that I'd like to recommend, if you're considering driving and you want to use one of these alternate routes, you might want to actually try it out a day or two in advance. There's nothing like trying out a route for the very first time with a whole bunch of other people that are trying out a route for the very first time. So to eliminate confusion or frustration on your part, if you're thinking of using an alternate route, please take a little extra time, pick a day before the closure, try it. One last thought. After we reopen SR99, after the 9-day closure is done, it will be in a reconfigured form. It will have this detour route, 2 lanes each way, that goes around this transitional work zone. The speed limit when we reopen it between Spokane Street and Battery Street will be 40 miles an hour. It's 50 miles an hour now, 40 miles an hour for trucks. When we reopen, it'll be 40 miles an hour both ways, so please pay attention to the speed limit signs. In the construction zone, there will be posted a 25-mile-an-hour advisory speed. And that is because we are introducing some additional curves into the alignment, and it will be a construction zone, so you need to be concerned about any construction closures or lane closures that may be in there at any given time. So the reason for that is to slow people down, keep people safe through the work zone. Last but not least, we have a Saturday morning demolition event on Saturday the 22nd. I believe we're starting at 9:30 a.m. ending at 12:30 p.m. Anybody and everybody is welcome to come down to the work zone. We'll have a very large area where people will be able to gather. You can go up on the viaduct itself, so you can see the demolition in action from the ground or from on top. And once you see what you need to see, there will be a big pile of concrete rubble. You'll be able to select a piece of viaduct rubble that looks good to you, and you can take that home. The contractor was hoping there'd be such great turnout that they don't actually have to truck anything off. Yeah, I don't think we have that many. There will be an elected speaking event at 1 p.m. I believe the governor is going to be there to say a few words too. So if you want to hear the governor's speech, you want to stick around until about 1. And that is it. Website is there, email, hotline. Any questions you send into the program do get answered, whether it be phone or email. I know that because I answered quite a few of them. What I would probably want to do now is just open it up. If you have some questions that you think might apply to the whole group, I'd really like to try to answer a few of those, and then maybe just take about 5 or 10 minutes to do that, but then be sure that we have time for folks to go and talk to people at the booths.
Okay. Peter Hahn, the director of our Seattle Department of Transportation, is here too. Peter, if you want to stand up or wait. Peter Hahn, the head of Seattle's Department of Transportation. Thank you for being here.
Right here in front.
I have a question. Are the TV stations going to be focusing quite a bit on reporting what's going on during this 9-day closure? Because right now they're pretty silent about 99.
So the question is, are the TV stations going to be reporting what's going on during the 9-day closure? Absolutely. We're having another press event tomorrow. I believe the media is going to be out there 4 a.m., 5 a.m. the Friday morning. We're going to start to do work. A nice thing about coordinating between our agencies, we have an emergency operations center and a traffic management center for the state. So does the city. 3 times a day, we are going to be communicating with each other on how things are going, what sort of adjustments we need to make, what the progress of construction is. We're going to get that information out to the press so they can get the information out to the public, and so you guys can get good updates daily on what to expect. Right there.
I have a question about the signs that coming down Admiral. Will those change? Will it just show time, or will it show information like there's an accident or lane blocked? I'm concerned about accidents impacting our traffic situation as a whole.
So the question is, the advanced driver information signs, such as the one on Admiral, what will they say during the closure itself? So we're going to start advertising the closure in advance on those signs. They are active. They don't have to just display travel times. If there's something going on that folks need to know about that's more important than the time to get from point A to point B, we can display that. I should note also that you don't actually have to go to that sign's physical location to see what your travel time is. Because in some cases, you might be under the sign and it might say, well, it's an hour to get to I-5. And you're like, well, that would have been really nice to know before I left my house. You can actually access that information from SDOT's website before you decide to get in your car. Right here.
Okay. First Spokane, going north and south, underneath the viaduct, the way it is right now. We're going to have that construction out of there so that you can start moving the traffic. Now you got 2 police officers directing traffic.
So the question is, what's going to happen in the intersection at 1st Avenue and Lower Spokane? So that's a very good point. All the active construction that we have there, we have some work over on 4th Avenue too. All those corridors are going to be opened up to their maximum extent during the 9-day closure. For example, that eastbound 1st Avenue ramp, it's 1 lane now. It used to be 2. For the 9-day closure, it's going to be restriped out to 2 lanes. The roadway on 1st Avenue itself is going to be opened back up to its maximum capacity, as well as 4th Avenue.
So southbound is going to be back open to 2 lanes on 1st Avenue underneath the viaduct.
Southbound will be opened back up to 2 lanes under the viaduct during the 9 days. There's still work to be done on that corridor after the 9-day closure is done.
It's down to 1 lane now.
That's right. All the surface streets are supposed to be opened back up to their maximum capacity during the closure itself. But then, of course, like for example, the Spokane Street project would have to finish its work, and so they may have to take some of that capacity away again after the 9-day closure is done. Couple more. One right there.
So on the message signs, you got one on Admiral, one on Fontenoy, one on 35th. What about drivers coming up Delridge? You know, all the way from White Center. They're going to get all the way to, say, Genesee before they discover there's traffic's backed up. It would be nice if there was a traffic sign prior to that that would allow folks, you know, because 10,000 cars a day come down Delridge, with some way to notify them so that they can maybe take an alternate route before they get down to a no, they can't do anything with traffic.
Okay, so the question is about advanced driver information signs on Delridge. I believe we have a plan to put a temporary sign on that road since there is not a permanent one now. I think we're still looking at what is the ideal location to put on that road because yes, Delridge does carry quite a bit of traffic. Maybe a couple more. There's someone standing way in the back. Yes, in the white shirt?
Yeah, my question is, I leave West Seattle every morning at 7 o'clock in the morning and I come down Apple Hill. Is it going to take me till 8 o'clock to get to I-5?
So here's the question. Yeah, so a common question that we get is, what should people expect for travel times? And all we can say at this point is that all depends on how well people respond to take alternate modes, to leave earlier, to delay their trip, to not travel at all. If nobody changes how they operate, nothing will move. If the majority of people change how they operate, things may not be too bad. In 2007, we did round-the-clock lane closures on I-5. I actually did some of the planning for that work, and the models showed that if nobody changed, traffic would be backed up to Tacoma. We got the word out. Our job is to do a good job communicating, letting you guys know what the impacts are and what you can do for options. We're asking everybody else to, hopefully we're doing a good job communicating so that everybody that can adjust will adjust, and so the delays will not be nearly as bad as they would otherwise. People want numbers, they want travel times, and we will be updating that as the closure progresses. We will be, like I said, checking in 3 times each day. Once we get into the closure itself, we'll be able to give you good updated information, but until we get to that point, we really can't say. I'd like to take one more and then turn it over to closing comments from the council members if they so choose, because I really want to be sure that folks have time to get their individual question answered by our staff. Right there.
Thank you. And actually, it's a good follow-up to what I was going to ask. Have you looked at, is there any possible way of what you can do to keep things moving on the West Seattle Bridge in an efficient manner, since it's such a feeder zone, coming from all different directions, heading into I-5 and 99, and just, if you looked at sort of the way things are floating on there now, obviously, we've all been impacted. I know my commute time from Morgan Junction to the U District for school has doubled. And just didn't know if there's any way that, a lane could be devoted to I-5 traffic only, or if any of the West Seattle bridges have looked at from an efficiency standpoint.
So the question is, what are we doing with the West Seattle High Bridge? What are we looking at there? What are we doing to make sure that it actually moves? We're doing a few things there. The Washington State DOT has a fleet of what we call incident response trucks. Those normally operate only on state routes because that's the state DOT's jurisdiction. We, in agreement with the city, we're going to be stationing incident response trucks on the West Seattle High Bridge. So if there's accidents or issues on the High Bridge, they can be responded to immediately by those incident response folks. We're also going to be stationing uniformed police officers at the intersection of 1st Avenue and Lower Spokane, and 4th Avenue and Lower Spokane, because that is one of our ways we can keep the High Bridge going, is to make sure that the exit points off the High Bridge are efficiently managed. So it's those 2 things. We looked at changing ways to access the bridge, how the lanes are distributed on the bridge itself. People are very used to the patterns that are there now. And we collectively came to the decision that the lanes are going to stay exactly where they are. The accesses will stay exactly where they are. We're just going to actively manage it, making sure that if there's incidents, they're cleared immediately, and making sure the exits are free and clear and managed by the police officers. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to the council members, and we appreciate such a great turnout in West Seattle. Thank you.
Matt deserves a lot of credit for all of the time and planning and effort he's put in and the work he's doing to actually communicate that out too. Thank you for recognizing that. I would point out one website for you to be aware of and take home with you. If there's one, while I think there's great information in the room, go circulate, check in with a number of the tables. But one website I'd suggest you take home and use as a reference is We'll Get You There. It's being run by King County Metro. It'll let you know about the additional Metro bus service. It'll give you links to the water taxi and increases in the water taxi service, the parking and the shuttles available for that, and a great resource all the way around. We'll get you there. That'd be my parting advice.
Again, thank you very much for being here. There's lots of information at all the tables around you. And if you didn't have the opportunity to have your question heard, we'll still be here until about 8 o'clock. So thanks again for being here. And you can always call me at the City Council too if you have any concerns.